I never imagined a casual sparring match would lead to unbelievable strength. But then again, I never thought my life would spiral out of control in a matter of seconds. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced that morning, a mix of excitement and dread swirling in my chest. I stood in the dimly lit gym, the air thick with anticipation, the scent of sweat and liniment clinging to my skin. There was something about the way Tim moved, light on his feet, eyes gleaming with that familiar thrill of competition. He was my best friend, my training partner for years. Both of us had our dreams tied to those old, worn-out mats. The roar of the crowd, the sound of our fists connecting with pads, we both craved that feeling of triumph. But as we circled each other, I noticed a shadow flicker behind his smile, an intensity one hadn't seen before. Something was off. We clinched, my palms sweaty against his. He wasn't just trying to win. He was trying to prove something. The impact of our bodies hitting against each other reverberated through me, a jolt that sent shivers down my spine. My muscles screamed in protest as we exchanged blows. Each punch felt heavier, like they carried more than just force. There was a strange energy in the air, crackling like a storm about to break, that I could see the watchers around us. Eager faces, breaths held in anticipation. It felt like a scene out of a movie, each second stretching long and taut. I heard whispers, gasps, and felt the weight of their judgment. "Did you see that? This is insane. Who does he think he is?" The murmurs echoed in my mind, amplifying the pressure. Then it happened. Tim threw a punch, one I didn't expect. My head snapped back, stars exploding behind my eyes as pain ignited through my skull. In that instant, I felt that something unlocked within me, an overwhelming surge of heat coursing through my veins. My vision tunneled, and I saw the path to victory. It was like a spell had been cast, an ancient force awakening. A heavy heat coiled around my fists, and suddenly I was moving faster, stronger, almost effortlessly, that I countered with a force I'd never known. Watching the shock flicker across Tim's face, I could feel that raw strength thrumming inside me, infusing my every move with a power that was terrifyingly exhilarating. My body felt alive in a way I couldn't comprehend. But just as quickly as it appeared, doubt crept in. Was this real? Was I transforming? Or was this just adrenaline? As I took a step forward, the world began to shift. The air crackled wildly, and a low hum resonated, shaking the very foundation of the gym. I locked eyes with Tim, who was reeling back, breathing heavy, confusion clouding his expression. And at that moment, in the chaos, we both realized something other than competition was at play. But what? Was this power a gift or a curse? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air was thick with uncertainty as I looked into Tim's eyes, searching for reassurance, a flicker of the friendship we had always shared. Instead, I found only bewilderment. What had just taken place felt more significant than a mere sparring match. It was a turning point, and I had crossed into a realm I could not fathom. As the echoes of surprised gasps and hushed whispers surrounded us, a thought raced through my mind. What if this power I had just unearthed came with a price? The energy crackled between us, a silent acknowledgement of an uncharted territory we were forced to navigate. Tim's brow furrowed, and for a moment, we froze in an uneasy silence, both of us grappling with this inexplicable shift. The spectators, once fervent for our match, had taken a step back, their expressions reflecting a blend of awe and concern. It was as if we were no longer the fighters they had come to watch now. We were something else, something alien. Tim shook his head slightly, breaking the spell that had him entranced. "What just happened?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I felt the weight of his question settle heavily on my shoulders. I didn't have an answer, but the uncertainty gnawed at me. Had I gone too far, become something I couldn't control? Before I could formulate a response, the gym doors swung open, abruptly drawing attention away from us. An imposing figure stood silhouetted against the harsh fluorescent lights, a tall man with a thick beard and a purpose that sent the hairs on my neck rising. He stepped inside, and the atmosphere shifted once more. It felt as if the air no longer belonged to us. "Jack," he said, his voice booming yet oddly calm. My stomach twisted. I didn't recognize him, but something about his presence felt threatening. "We need to talk." The immediate urge to flee clawed at me, but my body was betraying me, anchored to the ground, driven by an instinct I couldn't name. Tim made a half-step towards me, eyes darting between the man and me. "Who is this guy?" he asked, his voice laced with suspicion. "I'm here to ensure you understand the consequences of what you've unleashed," the man replied, the corners of his mouth curling in a grim smile. "You've tapped into something powerful, something ancient. There are rules, and you're playing with fire." My heart raced as I attempted to regain control. "I don't know what you're talking about," I managed to stammer, but a part of me was listening, taking in the gravity of his words. Could I trust him? Was it possible my strength was intertwined with something more sinister? "Spare me the denial," he snapped, stepping closer. The energy shifted again, heavier now, almost suffocating. "You felt it, didn't you? That moment when everything clicked, when you became more than just a fighter. That's the awakening, and it rarely goes unpunished." I sensed Tim's growing fear beside me, his hand tensing at his side. "What do you want from him?" Tim demanded, protective instincts igniting. "Nothing and everything. It's not just his fight anymore." The man's eyes glinted with a predatory sharpness. "There are others who will come looking for him, from the shadows, seeking to claim what they believe belongs to them." The implication hung in the air, a dark cloud unfurling around us. I felt an overwhelming weight balanced precariously on my shoulders. I had stumbled upon this power. What if it wasn't only my journey to bear? What if my past choices, my fighting spirit, were now endangering Tim, too? As if anticipating my turmoil, the man turned his attention to Tim, a knowing smirk creeping across his face. "You should consider distancing yourself from him. You don't want to be caught in the crossfire when the real fighters show up." "No." I found my voice, stronger than I thought possible, fueled by the furious need to protect my friend. "You don't get to dictate who I train with or who my friends are." With that declaration, fury blazed in the man's eyes, and for a moment, I thought he might lash out. Instead, he stepped back, a calculating look crossing his face. "You'll need allies then, but be careful whom you trust. The power you've awakened demands a toll." Before I could respond, he turned, striding out of the gym and leaving us tangling in the aftermath of his ominous words. Tim and I exchanged bewildered glances, the air heavy with unspoken fears. "What the hell just happened?" Tim finally breathed, breath shaky. "I'm not sure," I replied, uncertainty flooding back in waves. "But I feel like everything has changed. And not just for me." As the whispers from the onlookers resumed, something shifted in the atmosphere. The life we once knew felt like a distant lie, unraveling before us. Mercurial turbulence raged inside of me, the strange energy lingering as though it was alive and waiting to be tamed. A new voice echoed in my mind, deeper than I could ever have imagined, whispering promises of strength and danger alike. And just as I thought I might grasp the situation, a scream pierced the air, pulling my attention away from the chaos of my thoughts. I looked toward the gym doors where the tall figure had disappeared, only to see a burst of movement, blur rushing back inside, a flash of danger on the horizon. Hope and dread collided within me, and as the gym erupted into chaos once more, I was left grappling with the question that bound us all. What was awakening, and at what cost? The echoes of the gym morphed into a cacophony of confusion as bodies rushed toward the entrance, eyes wide with terror. My heart raced, anchored in place by the weight of the man's words and the growing dread wrapping around me like a suffocating shroud. Thompson, the newcomer, the menace. I didn't know who he was or what he was capable of, but instinctively I knew it was more than I could handle alone. "Jack, what's happening?" Tim's voice broke through my fog of uncertainty, pulling me back into the chaos. He was looking straight at me, his blue eyes swirling with concern, reflecting a friendship forged through years of shared struggles and joys. I wished fervently that I could offer him an answer that would calm his fears, but I was just as lost. Before I could respond, a figure burst through the gym door's silhouette, eclipsed by sheer panic. It was Ava, her usually confident demeanor shattered. She rushed down the aisle, her breath ragged and frantic. "Jack! Tim! You have to get out of here." The urgency in her voice struck me like a cold splash of water. It invigorated my senses, forcing me to process what was happening. "What do you mean? What's going on?" "Those Pioplothi are here for you," she gasped, eyes darting around as if danger lurked behind every corner. "You need to hide. They'll tear this place apart to get to you." My mind raced, grappling with the implications. Were these strangers connected to whatever power I had uncovered? Had my recklessness put everyone I cared about in jeopardy? The instinct to protect my friends surged within me, yet the weight of fear threatened to pull me under. "Who are they?" Tim demanded, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions roiling inside him. "I don't know exactly, but they've been watching you, Jack. Ever since you awakened," Ava stammered, the panic stifling her usually sure tone. "They know what you can do, and they're coming to claim it." That a shudder ran through me, a visceral response to the voice inside that echoed the man's warning. What had I done? The thrill of power I had felt during the sparring match now sat heavy in my gut, transforming into dread. Ava caught my gaze, her expression softening for just a moment, as if reminding me of the camaraderie we shared before the tension returned. "We need to find a way to." A loud crash from the entrance made us flinch, and all eyes turned to see what had erupted. A group of men and women surrounded by an aura of destructive intensity filled the doorway. They were clad in black, their faces obscured by hoods and masks, like shadows come to life. As a collective force, they advanced, their presence suffocating the vibrancy of the gym. Tim stepped in front of Ava and me, ready to shield us, but I could see the tremor in his hands. "Jack, I don't know what's going on, but whatever it is, we're in this together." The solidarity of those words buoyed my sinking spirit for a brief moment. "We can't stay here," I urged, locking eyes with Tim and Ava, urging them to follow my lead. "We'll find a way to figure this out." Just then, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. The rough, gravelly tone of Thompson echoed back as he re-entered the gym, fully aware of the menace unfolding. "You really should have listened, Jack. Running never solves anything." A thin smirk played on his lips, gloating over our fear. The unsettling energy from moments ago rippled through me again, an unreadable sense of control sparking alongside my confusion. I didn't know how I had gained that strength, but I felt it at the edge of my fingertips, demanding to be acknowledged. As the masked figures advanced, I faced them, heart racing but determination igniting a fire in my chest. The truth was, their presence rattled me, but the power throbbing within me felt like it was ready to erupt. "Get back," I yelled, pushing the limitations, daring to embrace whatever lay ahead. A flicker of brilliance ignited my hands, a pulse of energy reflecting my fears and anger, and in that moment, I felt the world shift. But just as I readied myself to confront the impending chaos, an explosion of bright light exploded behind the intruders, blinding us all in a luminescent dazzle. It seemed that something summoned beyond our control had come alive, shifting the momentum of confrontation. As the light dissipated, I squinted through the disarray to see an unexpected figure emerge from the haze, someone I never expected to see. My estranged sister, Hannah, appearing as a ghost from my past. Her expression was a mix of urgency and determination, eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that seemed to pierce through the uncertainty looming in the air. "Jack, we don't have much time," she exclaimed, and before I could even attempt to process the whirlwind of emotions her presence ignited, she continued, "They're coming, and if we don't leave now, we'll lose everything." My heart plunged into a pit of confusion. Hannah? Why was she here? Questions bubbled to the surface, demanding answers, but all I could feel was an overwhelming need to protect her and the others, the unexpected fire inside me feigning a newfound confidence. And as the masked figures began to advance, I felt the heavy burden from a past I never wanted to touch collide with an uncertain future. I had to decide, would I embrace this unpredictable power that awakened within me, or would it consume us all? The blinding glare faded, revealing Hannah standing resolutely in front of me, her presence both grounding and surreal. A million questions floated in my mind, but the urgency of the situation washed over them like a tide, threatening to drown what little clarity remained. "Hannah, what are you doing here?" The words escaped my lips before I could temper them, an echo of disbelief mingling with the tension in the gym. "I'll explain later, but right now, we need to move," she urged, her gaze flickering toward the menacing figures that were inching closer, the tension in the air growing thicker with every passing second. Tim held onto Ava's arm, measuring the distance between us and the looming threat. "What do you mean? We can't just—" But before he could finish his thought, Hannah surged forward, her hands imploring as she confronted the advancing group. "You don't want to do this," she called out, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around us. "We're not your enemies." A chilling laugh rippled through the group, its leader stepping forward, his mask slightly slipping to reveal dark, calculating eyes. "Oh, but you are. You just don't realize it yet." He gestured slightly, gesturing for his allies to close in. "Jack's potential has awakened an interest that you cannot comprehend. Hand him over, and we can avoid any unnecessary conflict." That my heart pounded, racing against the sounding alarm bells in my mind. "Never. I'm not going anywhere with you," I shouted, finding strength in the resolve that surged through me, prepared to protect those I loved. My fingers sparked subtly, a manifestation of emotions I barely understood. Hannah turned fiercely toward me, her voice lowering to a whisper that only I could hear. "Trust me, I can help you. We can harness this together. But we can't stay here. They won't stop until they have what they want." In her eyes, I caught a flicker of that same fear, interlaced with the promise of hope. It was a paradox that pulled at my heart, making the weight of decision feel heavier than ever. Could I trust her? After all this time, after so many years of silence, before I could respond, chaos erupted, yet again a flurry of movement as the masked figures lunged forward, their intentions unmistakable. My instincts kicked in. I could feel the energy pooling in my core, alive and demanding release. "Get back!" I cried out, channeling the swelling emotions, and with a flick of my wrist, a wave of brilliant light erupted from my fingertips, curling around my friends as a protective barrier. The shockwaves collided with their thirsty advance, pushing them back, their sneers eclipsed by a flicker of confusion. I dared to glance at Tim, and Ava. Fear still echoed in their eyes, but there was a hint of awe as they witnessed the power emanating from me, the strength that felt both foreign and inherently mine. "That was amazing," Tim exclaimed, his voice laced with wonder, yet my heart sank at the realization of the control I had barely grasped. "They're still coming," Ava shouted, gripping Tim's arm tighter, anxiety stitching her brows together. "You need to move," Hannah asserted again, urgency wrapping around her words like a taut string threatening to snap. "Let's get to the back exit now." I didn't wait for more convincing. I cast one last glance at the encroaching abyss of masked figures, adrenaline pulsing through my veins as I led the charge toward the escape route. Ava and Tim followed closely, Hannah right behind us, her presence a calming yet electrifying tether amidst the pandemonium. As we sprinted down the corridor, the thud of our footsteps echoed through the dimly lit hallway, panic fueling our urgency. But with every step I took, another thought invaded my mind. What kind of world had I unwittingly thrust my friends into just by tapping into this power? We stumbled into the alley behind the gym, the fresh air feeling like a balm against the chaos, but our reprieve was short-lived. The shadows of our pursuers loomed ominously at the entrance, specters that felt relentless in their chase. "Hannah, what do we do now?" I panted, trying to catch my breath, the weight of choices pressing heavily on my shoulders. But as I turned to her, a whisper of disbelief flickering across her face spoke volumes louder than words. "Jack, our parents," she breathed, terror embedding itself in her features. "They're involved. I didn't want you to find out like this." But the ground beneath me shifted, her revelation crashing over me like a tidal wave. The very people who had shaped our lives, the ones from whom we'd tried to escape, what role did they play in this rising storm? Had everything I feared about my family and my past been true? The fragile thread of hope twisted tighter, threatened to snap. Before I could respond, the silence of the alley shattered as voices echoed from within the gym. They were coming. They were ready to claim what had been awakened within me. I stood at the precipice, the lines between family, loyalty, and morality blurring before my eyes. As fear seeped into every crack of resolve, I straightened my spine, light crackling again at my fingertips. Would I rise to claim my power, or would it shatter the fragile connections that still held me together? All I knew was that answers awaited us, as grim as they might be, and I had to uncover them before it was too late. The alley stretched out before us, a narrow passage where shadows melded with the sharp angles of reality. I could feel the intensity of the moment pressing in, as if the very air had become thick with unspoken truths and hidden dangers. Just when I thought the worst was behind us, Hannah's startling revelation shook the ground beneath my feet. My parents were part of this tangled web. Why had she kept this from me? Tim and Ava stood beside me, their faces pale but determined. "Jack," Tim urged, his voice steady despite the turmoil swirling around us. "We have to find out what's going on. We can't leave things like this. Do you think I can just walk away?" I snapped, the heat flaring again within me, but I didn't know if it was anger or fear fueling the flames. My parents, they've been lying to me. All this time the truth has a way of coming out when you least expect it, Hannah interjected softly, her eyes shimmering with empathy. But we can only face it together. You don't have to be alone in this. As the echoes of our pursuers grew louder, I gritted my teeth against the swell of conflicting emotions. Hannah's words provided a momentary flicker of comfort. She wanted to support me, and despite everything, I longed for that connection. I still remembered how it felt to share secrets and dreams with her before silence draped over our lives like a heavy shroud. Suddenly, a noise shattered my reverie. A crash behind us signaled that our pursuers had made their way through the gym's emergency exit. The time for contemplation was gone. We could talk later, but for now, survival was paramount. "Let's get out of the alley now," I commanded, gratitude rising when neither of my friends hesitated. We raced toward the street, where the waning light of the day illuminated the chaos beckoning us from the shadows. The cacophony of the city swirled around us, a brief respite from what lay behind. Sirens wailed in the distance, and the chatter from passers-by created an ordinary backdrop to the extraordinary turmoil brewing in our lives. We darted around parked cars, hoping the mundane world wouldn't notice the storm trailing beneath the surface. "There?" Hannah pointed ahead, and I squinted through the dusk. A familiar park emerged from between buildings, its tall trees standing sentinel against the gathering night. If we could reach the safety of the park, we could regroup. As we charged in, I glanced back, half expecting enemies to close in on us. But no one followed. A strange stillness settled in, as though the chaos had mirrored itself from our minds into the world around us. We slowed to a halt beneath the sprawling branches, hearts racing, but the quiet allowed me a moment to catch my breath. The air was heavy with freshly turned earth and the scent of summer flowers stubbornly blooming, an unexpected reminder of beauty amidst the chaos. "What now?" Ava asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She was trembling, the reality of our circumstances finally settling in. I searched for answers, my mind a whirlwind of fragments. Me powers, the threat looming over us, and now the consequence of family ties spun awry. But at that moment, a soft glow flickered at my fingertips, a reminder of the force awakening within me, now tethered directly to my emotions. Then, amid the stillness, a figure stepped from the shadows of the trees. My heart raced again, prepared to unleash what I'd just learned to wield. Yet when the figure emerged, my breath caught in my throat. It was my father. There was no mistaking the familiar silhouette, but he looked different, haunted, almost. Lines of worry etched deeper on his face, and for a moment, I saw the man who used to throw me in the air and catch me with unwavering assurance. But that memory crumbled beneath the weight of his current expression. "Jack," he began, voice thick with emotion. "You have to listen to me." A surge of anger exploded within me, emotions clawing to break free. "What do you want from me? After everything, you have no right to just show up now. I know this looks bad, but it's more complicated than you think." "We complicated?" I spat, the light at my fingertips burning brighter with every word. "You've kept so much from us. I'm not part of your games any longer. I know, but you are part of this world," he urged, pleading in his tone. "You have to understand that the power you've unleashed affects more than just you. There are forces at play that are far bigger than." "Stop," Hannah interrupted, stepping between us. "We need to understand this together. Jack deserves answers, not threats. Tension crackled in the air like static electricity. My father's eyes darted back and forth, a hint of respect mingling with fear. You can't just think this through with passion alone, Jack. There are dangers pursuing you that we very people you think you can trust help create. Our lives and choices impact each other far more than you can understand. A silence enveloped us. The weight of his words settled over the gathering dusk like an impending storm. I was caught between fury and an aching desire to know the truth from my father, from Hannah, from the very essence of what bound us together. But before I could find the words, my world tilted again. Behind us, shadows moved, more presences than I could count, eyes gleaming from the dim light. "Time's up," my father said, panic flooding his expression. "We have to go. There's not much time left." With that, we were thrust into a choice that would bind us tighter than before. As my heart sank with new urgency, I realized our path ahead only darkened. And behind those shadows stood the questions that I ran away from, questions now poised to consume us all. The rush of impending danger clawed at my insides as I turned to face the encroaching shadows. The park, once a sanctuary, felt like a stage set for chaos. My heart thumped loudly in my chest, drowning out the distant hum of the city. I could feel Hannah and Ava inching closer to me, their presence a source of both comfort and anxiety. Together we stood on the precipice of uncertainty. "Jack, we need to go," my father urged again, urgency twisting his features into a mask of desperation. I shot him a glare that felt like daggers rather than words. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was a fundamental yearning to reclaim my agency, to cut through the murkiness that had enshrouded my life. "Where?" I snapped, uncertainty slipping in. "Away from what? The truth? You won't even let me in." "There's a safe house," he replied, glancing over his shoulder as the shadows loomed closer, a flicker of resolve in his gaze. "I can explain everything there. You have to trust me, Jack." "Trust?" I repeated bitterly, the word feeling foreign on my tongue. "You know what trust means to me now? A lie. A betrayal, Jack." Hannah stepped in, voice low and steady. "If you don't take this chance, we might not get another one." She was looking deep into my eyes, her own filled with an unyielding strength that I wanted to latch onto. "We can't afford to be stubborn. We need to stick together." I hesitated, feeling the weight of her words sink in. Maybe taking a step back and escaping the now could allow me the clarity to confront the tidal wave of emotions threatening to pull me under. "Fine," I relented, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. "But if you don't tell me everything, there will be hell to pay." My father nodded, the tightness of his jaw reflecting the tension that bound us. "Stay close," he ordered, motioning for us to follow him through the dense trees at the edge of the park. We moved swiftly, driven by fear and adrenaline. The shadows that had once seemed distant were now right behind us, and I felt their weight pressing down, louder and more menacing than before. As we threaded through the underbrush, the chaos of emotions within me became a cacophony. I wanted answers, craved understanding, but the cost of that truth felt monumental. My thoughts drifted to Ava, who ran beside me, her face a mask of determination. Her presence was a balm. We both knew the risks we faced together. "Jack," she whispered, catching my eye, "we'll get through this. Whatever it takes." Her voice was calm, and in that fleeting moment, I felt a flicker of hope ignite in my chest. Just as quickly, we broke into a clearing, the sudden brightness temporarily blinding us. My father's silhouette became a prison bar against the open expanse, and without thinking, I reached out to grasp Hannah's hand. There was a strange comfort in the warmth that connected us, buffering the fear that threatened to overwhelm my senses. "Almost there," my father called, but before we could step further into the clearing, a piercing howl rang through the night, a sound so primal it sent a chill down my spine. It echoed off the trees, growing louder, and I could feel the ground vibrating beneath us. Suddenly, the shadows transformed into solid forms, emerging into the light figures cloaked in darkness, their eyes luminescent with malice. They were at once familiar and foreign, a grotesque reflection of the fears I had tried to outrun. "Get back," I shouted, adrenaline surging anew, ready to unleash whatever power simmered within me. I could feel the energy igniting at my fingertips once more, anger fusing with desperation, but I had no clue what it could do. "Hannah, Ava, stay behind me," I urged, stepping forward, yearning to be the shield they needed. In that moment, I felt the weight of the burden pressing upon us, all the weight of secrets, relationships fraying at the seams, and a world hanging in the balance. "Jack, no," my father shouted, but the words fell on deaf ears. I had already taken that step, crossing the line between fear and the fight, before anyone could react. One of the figures lunged forward with unearthly speed. A flash of darkness headed straight for me. I raised my hands instinctively, feeling the power surge within me, a raw, untamed force I'd barely begun to comprehend. Just as I focused my will, a rush of light burst forth, illuminating the clearing like a brilliant star in the night. But then a sickening realization hit me, one that crushed the breath from my lungs. The force was entirely uncontrollable, spiraling out of my grasp, an overwhelming wave of energy that surged beyond my intent and careened toward the advancing shadows. And then came the silence. The light died abruptly, plunging us all into darkness, and in that moment I felt more than just the absence of illumination. I sensed the very fabric of my reality fraying. The shadows, cocked and ready with their malevolent eyes, now narrowed in on me. "Jack." Hannah's voice cut through the void like a lifeline, but sounded desperate, as if she too understood the gravity of what I had unleashed, or perhaps just how quickly things could spiral further out of control. With my heart pounding, I braced for the unknown. I could feel the past colliding with the present, the weight of legacy hanging over us like a storm cloud. Answers and resolutions felt impossibly distant, and yet I was aware that every moment was leading us closer to an inevitable reckoning. And as the shadows drew near, one figure stepped forth from the dark, and the flickering remnants of light revealed a face I never thought I would see again. Me mother. The world shifted around me, the shadows momentarily parting to unveil a figure I had only half remembered, the remnants of a childhood dream. She stood before me, her hair a cascade of warmth encircling a face that mirrored mine, but emotions crashed inside like waves against a stormy shore. Confusion, anger, longing, a tempest of feelings churned as I faced the last person I ever expected to see again. "Mom?" The words slipped from my lips, laden with disbelief. My father's heavy silence beside me was a stark reminder of all that had transpired, all that I had lost. "Jack," her voice was a melodious echo, laced with uncertainty. "I didn't think I'd find you here, like this." The shadows, momentarily halted by her presence, closed in around us, their anticipation thick in the air. I could hardly process the size of the revelation that had crashed upon me. My mother had vanished from my life, leaving behind a chasm of confusion and sorrow, but here she stood, fragile yet fierce, like dawn chasing the night. "Why did you leave?" The bitterness in my tone pierced through the fragile silence, threading through the cords of emotion that bound us. "You just vanished, and I was left trying to piece everything together. I lost you when I needed you the most." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, the shadows around her seeming to dance to a grief-wrapped melody. "Jack, you don't get to explain now," I interrupted, anger and heartache pouring from me in unrelenting waves. The shadows loomed ever closer as if drawn by the tempest between us. "You abandoned me. I've spent my whole life wondering if I was a mistake. Did you even care?" "Every day," she said faintly, stepping closer tentatively. "I cared too much. I had to protect you. The world we lived in, enough with the excuses." I shouted, feeling power swirl around me again, the fear of being overwhelmed clawing at my insides. The shadows surged forward, locked in their relentless approach. "Jack." My father moved as if to shield me, but they were all I could focus on, the electricity that resonated between us. "Please listen to her." "Why should I?" I snapped, struggling to hold back tears, emotions coiling tighter and tighter until I felt I might snap in two. "What could you possibly say that would change what you did?" Hannah's fingers tightened around mine, grounding me amid the storm raging inside. "Jack," she whispered softly, "you don't have to face this alone." While listened together, that I felt the warmth of her hand, a comfort, though the turmoil in my heart overshadowed the kindness she offered. My gaze remained locked on my mother, who was now visibly trembling. I saw the shadows shifting behind her, silhouettes becoming restless, making their intentions clear. In that fleeting moment, a sliver of resolve began to flicker within me, wrestling against the despair. "What are they?" I demanded, directing my fury towards the shadows encompassing her form. What do they want with us? They want you, Jack. My mother's voice curled around the words, heavy with unspoken truths. They will stop at nothing to claim what you've inherited, the power within you. Panting, I swallowed hard, the foundation beneath me trembling with the weight of her revelation. Power? What are you talking about? They want to take you back, she urged, urgency underscoring her tone, to control you. Your father and I your father? It felt as though the ground shifted beneath my feet with the sudden realization she had just let slip. Are you saying you and Dad were together? Jack, please, my father started, his face contorting with a blend of anger and fear, desperation for me to draw back from this chasm. This isn't the time. But the revelations crashed down like thunder, a storm of emotions threatening to drown me. What more don't I know? My voice shook as I glanced between them. Two figures at the center of my universe who had always kept me at arm's length. What else have you lied about? Nothing, my mother said fiercely, stepping defiantly towards the shadows with a motherly resolve that startled me. Whatever they want, we will not let them take you. I made mistakes, but I never lost hope. We can defeat them together. This isn't the way. My father roared, a surge of anger sparking against the veil of fear. You cannot put yourself in harm's way again. As she faced the gathering darkness, the shadows began to advance, swirling around her like a living storm. Her expression transformed, something fierce and protective igniting within her gaze. It was as if the very act of stepping forward armed her with both strength and vulnerability. Don't you dare, I pleaded, an urgency clawing at my heart. Mom, I don't want to lose you again. Her smile was bittersweet, full of love yet tinged with the sorrow of her choices. You won't lose me, Jack. I promise. Then, with a flick of her wrist, she unleashed something unseen, a force that pushed back against the encroaching darkness. I felt the air crackle with energy, raw power igniting beneath the surface, but as quickly as it rose, it began to falter, dimming in the face of the overwhelming shadows. Panic surged anew within me as I watched her fight, trapped in the tangle of emotions I had never wanted to unravel. But before I could react, the shadows converged around her, swallowing her figure, a dark cocoon around the only parent I believed I could ever understand again. An agonizing shriek cut through the air, a sound woven with pain that shattered me to my core. Mom. And just like that, the darkness closed in, enveloping everything. I stumbled back, lost as everything I thought I understood melted into chaos. The clearing had become a battlefield in a war I was yet to comprehend. Jack. Hannah's voice echoed, rising above the cacophony, but I could feel dread thundering in my ears, vision blurring as I fought against suffocating despair. I didn't just stand on the precipice of uncertainty. I was tumbling into the abyss, the ground crumbling beneath my feet, exposed and raw against a force I had yet to harness. And as darkness descended around me, I knew one truth to be undeniable. I had to find my mother again, no matter the cost. The void constricted around me, filled with an oppressive silence that swallowed every breath, every thought. Time felt warped as though the seconds stretched in cruel mockery of my racing heart. I fought to regain my composure, heart hammering against my ribcage like a caged bird desperate for freedom. Their shadows still swirled with an insatiable hunger, and amid the chaos, the shriek of my mother lingered, echoing in the depths of my mind. Jack. Hannah pulled at my arm, a lifeline in the storm. Her voice was both insulating and resonant, pulling me back into the unsettling present. We can't just stand here. We have to go. But I couldn't move. My feet felt rooted to the grinding earth, agony wrapping around me like a wretched shroud. The figure of my mother, swallowed whole by the shadows, replayed in my mind like an unending nightmare. Jack, please. Hannah's urgency pierced through my stupor, her grip tightening. If we stay, we'll be next. Taking a deep breath, I finally surfaced from the depths of despair, looking into Hannah's wide eyes filled with worry and fierce determination. You don't understand. I can't let them take her. Her gaze softened but remained resolute. You can't save her if you lose yourself. We need a plan. Plan? The word felt foreign, whispering doubt into the corners of grief that still surrounded me. What kind of plan can possibly bring her back from something like that? The spar, she exclaimed, igniting embers of hope within her words. The training, think about it. Remember what you felt during the match, how strong and alive you became. I shook my head violently. That was different. This is real, and she is still out there. Hannah's voice was a steady current, drawing me back to the light. Your power is within you, Jack. It's there waiting to be unleashed. You are not helpless. With each breath she took, her words wrapped tighter around me, a sturdy anchor against the turbulent sea of emotions crashing around my heart. There was a flicker of possibility in the chaos, a flicker of light that dared to venture beyond the dark. Taking a moment, I allowed myself to lean into that spark, my fingers trembling as they reached toward her. What if I fail? What if I can't control it? Then we do this together, she countered firmly, clasping my hands in hers. You won't be alone. And suddenly, from somewhere deep inside me, a flicker of strength ignited, fueled by the shared vulnerability we held. Like embers catching fire, I felt the potential surge within, pulsating with life, igniting hope that unfurled the knots in my chest. Nodding uncertainly, I looked through the remnants of our battlefield. The trees that framed the clearing stood as silent sentinels, confounding shadows among their branches. They seemed to pulse with anticipation, almost alive. What do we do? We need to focus and reconnect with your abilities. Remember your training. Channel what you felt when you fought. Her eyes glimmered with fierce conviction. You know how to harness this strength. Fighting the encroaching dread, I nodded, my mind racing. In the throes of our sparring, I'd felt something arise within me, a depth of power beyond my awareness, waiting silently while I stumbled through my reality. It was time to tap into that reservoir and unleash it. As Hannah stepped back, creating space between us, I closed my eyes and emptied my mind, honing my breathing. The chaotic sounds around me faded, replaced by the rhythmic heartbeat of my own pulse. I remembered the rush of fear and exhilaration as I had exchanged blows with practice dummies, the way the world felt like it was at my fingertips, a rich tapestry of energy aching to be woven with intention. Now, focus. Hannah's voice was a directive bolt, slicing through the silence and pulling at the strands of my concentration. Let it flow. Envision the shadows, their form, their essence. Channeling the echoes of our past matches, I let my emotions simmer, feeling the heat rise, ripping through the suffocating remnants of despair. I inhaled deeply, envisioning the shadows creeping in. In return, I imagined, drawing light out from within my core infused with the strength of the memories, the overwhelming love for my mother that would not let despair win. With each exhale, I shaped that warmth into energy, feeling it swirl and pulse like a river redirected. The shadows around me began to shift, as if aware of my awakening heart. Now, Hannah's voice surged, merging with the chorus of my focused intent. Let it out. In that moment, something within me released the warmth that had taken root, exploded outward like a burst of sunlight breaking through storm clouds. The shimmering energy flowed from my hands, arcing toward the encroaching shadows. Astonishment washed over me as the dark forms recoiled, forms shriveling back against the light. More, Hannah urged, unyielding. With a newfound resolve, I pushed harder, pouring everything I held, every shred of love for my mother, every feeling of anger, grief, and hope into that radiant burst. But as the shadows pulsated and shrank away, they shifted, corralling together, forming a grotesque silhouette, one that melded into something horrific. A face emerged, twisted and malevolent, eyes glinting with an insatiable hunger. Foolish child, it hissed, a voice smooth like velvet, yet dripping with malice. You cannot escape your fate. She is lost to you. No. My shout rang wild. The darkness summoned a panic I could hardly contain. I fought back, using every ounce of will I possessed, but the malevolent entity loomed larger, a grotesque shadow of what was once my hope. Together, Hannah's voice broke through the chaos, light and bravery entwined. We fight together, Jack. Her presence grounded me once more, igniting a new core of bravery amid the sheer despair. As the two of us squared against the growing darkness, I nodded, knowing that standing alongside her was my only choice. With the memories of love intertwining with that sparked strength, I pressed forward, shaping our light into a unified force. Yet, even as it surged ahead, the entity shifted again, foreboding danger slithering within each writhing shadow, waiting for us to falter. In that electrifying moment, as our powers collided with the darkness, I felt the truth thrumming beneath the surface, a realization that would shift everything I knew about myself and bring the battle forward to a head between light and shadow. Then, through the fierce storm of chaos, the entity's voice rose, echoing with haunting clarity. You will lose what you seek. Secrets untold will break your resolve and shatter everything you love. Panic flared as the vision of my mother began to flicker along the edges of my mind. Was she truly lost? But before I could respond, the shadows surged together, reassembling once more as I reached for the silver of hope that teetered on the brink of oblivion. I couldn't let despair rob me of everything I fought for. As the darkness closed in with a vengeance, a haunting question lingered. What price must I pay to reclaim my mother from the abyss? The shadows twisted around us, a pulsating mass of dread, but I clung tightly to the flicker of hope ignited by Hannah's unwavering presence. With every breath, my heart beat a fierce tattoo, echoing the call to fight against the encroaching darkness. We won't let them take her, I found myself murmuring, even as doubt clawed at the edges of my resolve. Remember, Jack, you are stronger than you think. We're in this together. Hannah's strength radiated like a beacon, weaving through the tendrils of despair that threatened to ensnare us. I met her gaze, finding warmth glimmering within the storm. Together, I echoed, and suddenly, it felt as if the energy flowing between us crystallized an unbreakable bond forged in the fire of our desperation. As we stood resolute against the darkness, I willed our light forward, but the shadows writhed, shattering my determination like glass. The villainous figure advanced, dark tendrils reaching out, whispering soft, venomous words that curled around my thoughts. Look at you, it hissed, its voice slippery and inviting. You think you can save her? You are but a child, and children are meant to play at love, play at bravery. But when the game turns serious, they lose everything. No, I shouted, struggling against the wave of despair that threatened to consume me. The entity's words wormed their way into my heart, seeds of fear taking root within my soul. I won't lose her. You already have, it replied, a cold fucking truth laced through its words. You are alone in this fight. Your mother waits, trapped beyond the veil of shadows. You will never find her. It was as if the world crumbled beneath me, the ground shaking with the weight of that revelation. My mother, lost forever within the darkness, an icy grip of panic chilled my spine, and I fought to steady my breath, knowing I couldn't succumb to the shadow's embrace. Jack, look at me, Hannah called, breaking through the fog. She's out there. We can't give up. Her insistence rekindled the flame of resolve in my chest, pushing back against the darkness that clung so desperately to my memories. Right, I murmured, gathering the tendrils of power that remained, drawing upon the strength we had cultivated in each other. Don't let go. With a fierce determination, we focused on the warped figure before us. In that moment, something shifted. It was subtle but impossible to ignore. A flicker of light danced at the edge of my vision, an ephemeral glimmer of what could be, illuminating the shadows like the first rays of dawn. Channel it, Hannah urged, her voice strong and steady. Let the light guide you. Focusing on the warmth blossoming within, I opened my heart, allowing emotions to wash over me. Memories of laughter, the scent of my mother's embrace, the love we shared brightening the darkness that threatened to engulf me. The energy surged forward, and to my astonishment, I felt more than just my own essence. I sensed Hannah's heartbeat synchronizing with mine, a symbiotic rhythm of courage and hope. Together, we forged an unstoppable force, a creation born from the very depths of our souls, illuminating shadows that dared to challenge us. Together, I reiterated, pouring every memory, every ounce of love into the stream of light. As the energy collided with the dark entity, it twisted and writhed, absorbing our luminescence but struggling to contain it. The shadows distorted, offering glimpses of my mother's face, flickering like a candle in the wind, and in that moment, I felt a seismic shift within me. The haunting words of the shadowy figure pulsed through my mind again, the very secrets I feared might tear me apart. Jack, Hannah cried as our combined strength flickered in the face of expanding darkness. Don't listen to it. Remember who you are, but the truth that lay just beneath the surface clawed at me. What if the entity was right? What if I wasn't strong enough? What if I truly lost everything? Then, through the turmoil, a small, haunting specter of hope emerged. In my memories, I saw a younger version of myself with my mother, laughing on the shore. The warmth of her smile surged through me, wrapping around my heart like a gentle embrace, igniting a fire of determination. I will find you, Mom, I whispered fervently. The darkness didn't like this rallying promise, writhing violently, as if sensing the shift within us. You cannot win, Jack, it spat, its voice laden with venom. Surrender is better than futile hope. The truth will break you. As those words echoed hauntingly in my mind, Hannah's voice broke through once more, pulling me back. You must choose, Jack. Fight for her. Fight for yourself. For us. In that pivotal moment, an unexpected kindness swirled within the depths of my despair, a shimmering memory of my mother reading to me. The sound of her laughter intertwined with the waves on a bright day. It filled the cracks in my resolve like freshly poured light through the darkness. I remembered the strength she always saw in me, no matter how lost I felt. Fueled by that treasured memory, I channeled everything I was into the energy we created. I pushed against the shadows, the light erupting in a brilliant wave that surged towards the dark figure, burning brighter than I had ever anticipated. But before it could reach the entity, it shifted once again, elongating in grotesque shapes that coiled like serpents, blocking the light. Do you see, Jack? It whispered, a thread of mockery interwoven with despair. You are too late. The light flickered, and in that heartbeat, behind the veil of shadows, the familiar outline of my mother seemed to tremble, her visage a desperate cry for deliverance. Jack! Hannah screamed, but the shadows were already reaching, tendrils coiling around my limbs, urging me into their depths. And then, with every ounce of courage left, I heard the voice of my mother clear and true in my heart. Fight! I will always be with you. The entity shrieked, the noise curdling my blood as I finally realized my journey was just beginning. There was still hope to be found amid the looming darkness, but it wouldn't come without sacrifice. In that overwhelming moment, a terrifying question draped itself over my heart and flickered in the air. Was I truly willing to pay the price to reclaim what I loved, or would I lose them to the shadows forever? The shadows writhed around us, and panic clawed at my insides as I stood, heart pounding, facing the looming darkness that threatened to consume everything I held dear. The grotesque figure of darkness twisted and turned, an embodiment of my deepest fears, echoing back the insecurities I had fought to suppress. But as the entity's taunting voice reverberated in my mind, a deeper truth began to crystallize within me, an understanding that the power I had unlocked was not just a means to fight. It was a connection to everything I loved. Jack. Hannah's voice rang out, piercing through the suffocating darkness. You need to remember who you are. Focus on your mother, on the love that binds us. The warmth of Hannah's hand grounded me, anchoring me in a way that offered clarity among the chaos. I closed my eyes, allowing the memories of laughter, warmth, and unfettered love with my mother to wash over me. I could almost hear her voice, a chorus of strength whispering that I was never alone. Fight for us, she urged. Fight for what matters. With each heartbeat, my resolve strengthened, light pulsing from within, waiting to be unleashed. I took a deep breath, picturing that vibrant connection coursing through my veins. It was not just my battle. It was a shared fight for love, family, and the bonds we had formed. The darkness recoiled momentarily, as if sensing the intensity of my emotions, but I was ready. I will not back down. I will not be consumed, I proclaimed, drawing on the energy that surged around me. Together, Hannah cried, her voice harmonizing with my own, our souls entwined in purpose. In that moment of unity, I reached deep within and released the light, feeling it channel through me like a tidal wave, aimed straight for the grotesque entity. The beams danced through the darkness, illuminating the shadows in a brilliant display, revealing the frightened faces of my friends and my mother's ghostly silhouette mingling with the shadows, trapped but alive. The rush of energy surged forward, as if the very fabric of light itself pushed the darkness back inch by inch. "This is our strength," I shouted into the void, letting the memories of joy and love guide my power. Yet just as victory seemed to shimmer within reach, the dark figure twisted, its laughter reverberating with a bitter edge. "Do you think this childish light can hold sway over me? All your love, all your memories, they only serve to weaken you." With a roar of defiance erupting from my core, I shouted, "Love is never weak." In that moment, the shadows hesitated, as if struck by a revelation they could not process. I could feel Hannah's resolve beside me, an unbreakable bond that refused to falter. We were resilient. We were not alone. I channeled every emotion, every cherished moment. The force of light grew stronger, swirling around us, cascading like a waterfall of energy that consumed the shadows. I watched, breathless, as they recoiled, the tendrils that had once threatened to encapsulate us now shriveling back. And then, the silence hit hard, an abrupt pause that felt impossible under the weight of expectation. The entity's grotesque visage began to distort, flickering as if caught between worlds. "You think you've won? You cannot sever the ties of fate so easily." But still, amidst the raging turmoil, a small, persistent voice within me exuded confidence. "I can forge my own path." It was a promise-a vow to reclaim what was mine, to break free from the chains of my cast shadows. With a final push, I focused all my will and desire into a dazzling surge, erupting outward, illuminating the dark corners of the clearing. I felt an intense heat, vibrant energy coursing through me, and the figure wailed in anguish as the light expanded beyond its grasp. The moment felt infinite as light and dark wrestled for control. Yet suddenly, my vision honed onto something that made my blood run cold, the flickering image of my mother caught in the fray. "Mom!" I screamed, desperate to reach her, my heart aching at the thought of losing her again. In that instant, fueled by desperation, I called out to her, not just with my voice, but with every ounce of love I could muster. "You're not lost. I will find you, I promise." The shadows lurched, imposing darkness swirling, but from within, I felt a stir. A gentle whisper grazed against the back of my mind, a flicker of warmth that ignited something within me, a connection I had yearned for. "Jack," her voice was as it always had been, gentle yet fierce, "believe in us." And as the words echoed through my heart, I gripped Hannah's hand tighter, and together, we pushed beyond our fears. We believe, and we fight together. With that declaration, our combined energy surged forward, a brilliant cascade of light that pierced the darkness, sweeping it away like the dawn breaking through night. That I felt Hannah beside me, unwavering, our voices forming a symphony against the encroaching shadows, illuminating every crevice of doubt as the figure shrieked in fury, finally unraveling, dissolving into sparks of light, leaving behind a tranquil glow. As the darkness faded, my breath caught in my throat. There, amidst the remnants of shadow, stood my Mothera figure, transformed by the light. "Jack!" she cried, her arms extending toward me as I raced forward, heart hammering. In that moment, as I closed the distance between us, everything I had feared evaporated. It was as if time had folded, and I was reaching for a part of myself that had been lost for far too long. "Mom!" I embraced her fervently, the warmth of her familiar presence washing over me, eradicating every shadow of doubt. I could finally breathe. "Jack, I'm so proud of you," she whispered, her voice light, yet deep with emotion, as if she were wrapping my heart in a blanket of love that I had needed most. "We can face this together," I murmured, tears slipping down, but they felt like rivers of joy, affirming the truth of our bond. In that embrace, everything shifted. I realized that unification, forgiveness, and love held the power to overcome even the darkest fears. The fog of solitude lifted, replaced by light and warmth, and the connection I once craved blossomed around me, a bubble of safety amidst the chaos that promised healing and renewal. We were not just mere shadows, nor abandoned souls. We were intertwined with light, love, and strength that could bend the tides of darkness. And as I stepped back to gaze into my mother's eyes, something profound flourished within me: acceptance and the unyielding belief that I could forge my own destiny. The idea that life is a fragile balance between choice and consequence became clear, but I chose to step forward into the light not just for myself, but for my family, my friends, and all the pieces of my heart that I had feared would shatter. Embracing my past, I turned to Hannah and Tim, solidarity thrumming around us. Together we had emerged stronger, poised to seek the paths we would carve anew. This is our story now. Well, face whatever comes next together, I declared, resolution settling around us. We stood united. I could feel the pull of the future ahead. Each step forward brought with it the rhythm of a heart willing to embrace the journey, illuminating the canvas of uncertainty before us, coloring it with the vibrancy of hope. And as I took my first step into the sweeping light with the ones I loved beside me, I whispered to myself, we are just beginning.